I have lived in the Scottish Highlands for some years now. I have been living in the north, and I mean the way, way north. I live in a small coastal town. The air always tastes of salt and peat, and the wind never really stops. The place is pretty beautiful, and I quickly took to exploring. I spend most of my free time wandering the coastline, clambering over rocks, tracing the edge of the cliffs, and poking around the ruins of an old castle that sits on the right-hand side of the river. The castle is mostly just crumbling stone and moss now, but it's easy to imagine it once watched over the whole bay. Past the castle, a narrow trail snakes along the cliffs, sometimes so close to the edge that you can hear the waves crashing far below. One day around wintertime, I decided I was bored AF and wanted to go on a walk. I decided on a long hike along this cliff trail. I wanted to really push my limits and see everything that the area had to offer. I got all of my stuff and headed out in the early morning. The hike was more brutal than I was expecting and took me most of the day. It got to around evening time and I was still out there. The trail is rough and sometimes vanishes into brambles or slick stones, but I kept on going. I was enjoying feeling the thrill of being alone in such a wild place. Hours pass by and it is starting to get dark outside. Eventually, I stumble across something unexpected. A cluster of ancient stone houses, half swallowed by the earth, windows empty, roofs caved in. For a moment, I think I found a ghost town, the kind you hear about in stories. There is a round tower nearby with stones that are blackened. The settlement feels abandoned but not empty. I've got this weird feeling in my body, like I feel watched somehow, but I chalk it up as nerves from being in an unfamiliar area. I check my phone and realize I'm nearly 10 miles away from home now. My legs are aching. Curiosity, though, pushes me forward. On the far side of the settlement, the land drops away into a bay, flanked by cliffs that dwarf the ones I have already crossed. The cliffs are shrouded in mist, the tops lost to the low clouds. I decide I want to reach them just to see what is there. Even though the sensible part of me says to turn back, I start crossing the bay. The sand is cold and damp beneath my boots. The tide is far out but creeping in. The sky darkens quickly, with clouds swallowing the last light. I realize now that I have lost track of time. The cliffs don't seem to get any closer, no matter how far I walk. The wind picks up, and it is carrying the distant sound of something. I think maybe seals or some other kind of sea life. I decide it's finally time to turn back. I am worried about the tide and the treacherous cliff paths in the dark. I try to retrace my steps, following my own footprints along the beach, but the wind and waves have already started to erase them. I pull my phone out of my pocket. I use the flashlight to cut through the darkness. The beam is barely reaching more than a few feet ahead. The world feels smaller now, hemmed in by the night and the endless sound of the sea. As I walk, I spot a dark shape in the sand, much too far for the light to reach clearly. At first, I think it's just a rock, but something about it makes me feel uneasy. I draw closer. The shape grows larger, more defined, and I realize it's not a rock at all. It looks almost like a massive fish, but I've never seen anything that big washed up here before. I hesitate for a second. My heart is pounding out of my chest. Then I nudge it with the toe of my boot, expecting the hard resistance of stone. Instead, my boot sinks into something soft and yielding. That confirms it. It confirms my fear. It is flesh, not rock. My skin begins crawling, and the cold suddenly becomes much sharper, and I force myself to shine the light directly on it. The beam reveals a seal pup. Its body is twisted. There is a chunk of flesh missing from its side. The wound is round, almost surgical, not ragged like you would expect from a predator. The strangest part of this thing is the head. The skin is there, but the skull is gone. The face is collapsed and empty. I just stare at it for a few seconds, trying to make sense of what I am seeing, mind racing through explanations. Could it be a boat? An orca? Maybe another seal that did this? I know it doesn't make sense. I remember hearing that animals sometimes eat their young, but I've never heard of seals doing this. And plus, there's no way it could have caused this. The idea unsettles me, but not as much as the missing skull. I leave the carcass behind. I just keep on moving, but the darkness feels heavier now, pressing in from all sides. I feel nervous, scared. Not far ahead of me, I spot another silhouette waiting in the sand. I approach it, feeling the dread building in my stomach, and I find a second seal pup with identical wounds and the identical missing skull. The odds of two animals dying in exactly the same way, in exactly the same place, seems impossibly small. I try to rationalize it. Maybe the surf tore their heads off. Maybe scavengers did it. But the wounds are much too precise, way too clean. The air feels colder, the wind feels sharper, and that I realize I am alone in the dark with these strange remains miles away from anyone, and my legs are too tired to keep on moving too quickly. I just keep on walking as fast as I can. Every shadow is now making me jump out of my skin. Every sound is now amplified by the fear in my head. My head keeps telling me every single sound is danger. The flashlight beam flickers. My battery, I think, is dying, and I curse myself for not bringing a spare. As I round a bend in the beach, the wind drops suddenly, replaced by a deep, unnatural silence. The only sound is the slow, rhythmic slapping of something wet against the sand. I stop, feeling my heart hammering, and I swing the light in the direction of the noise. I see another shape, but this one is moving. It's dragging itself out of the surf with awkward, jerking motions. The creature is roughly seal-shaped, but wrong. Its head is just a loose flap of skin. No bone structure, no eyes, just empty darkness. It pauses, lifts its ruined face toward me, and lets out a guttural, bubbling sound that makes my blood run cold. The sound is like nothing I've ever heard before. It's wet, desperate, almost pleading. The creature drags itself closer, leaving a trail of dark, viscous fluid in the sand. The air is thick with the smell of salt and decay, and I realize the other seal pups were not killed by boats or predators. They were like this thing, something that should not exist. Something that's been changed by the sea or something inside of it. The creature stops a few feet away, its head collapsing inward as if it's trying to speak to me. For a moment, I think I see movement inside the empty skin. I see something writhing and searching for a way out. I see the skin expanding and contracting, slowly at first, but it gets more rapid. Where at first it looked like there was no structure, it now looks like there is definitely something inside of the head. It's like the head is being blown up like a balloon at points, and it looks like it might pop. Where the flesh is torn, where the eyes are gone, where the mouth is missing, I can almost make something out. Panic surges in my body, and I stumble backward, dropping my flashlight. The creature lets out another sound, louder this time, and I feel a pressure in my ears, like the air itself is vibrating. I see the skin moving and stretching again, until I hear this horrible, wet sound. I hear this sickening wet pop and squelch, and feel an explosive release of something wet. It hits my face, and all I can smell is raw fish. And now I see that there is a hole in the head of the seal. The skin has completely ruptured, and I see something dark, almost completely black, sliver its way out of the opening in the skin. It was hard to see after dropping my flashlight, but it looked almost like a crab, but not exactly. It had a lot of legs, and was probably about the size of a human head, but it was just pure black, and it did not walk. Rather, it kind of pulled itself, and slivered instead. At the sight of this, I just started running. I didn't even bother going for my flashlight. The second I turned though, whatever this thing was, let out this ear-piercing screech. It was insanely high-pitched, and almost felt debilitating. I could feel all of my muscles tense up and feel weaker. They felt 10 times heavier, like all of a sudden the gravity was turned up and it made it hard to run. It made my legs feel even tireder than they already were, like I was running in mud or getting stuck in quicksand. I managed to get away eventually, and once I could finally remove my hands from my ears, I just did not stop until I made it home. I ended up collapsing in a heap outside my place. I tried to ask around in the days following, but didn't really find out much except for a few seamen's yarns. They told me about some weird things washing up on the beach before, but never like what I described. To this day, I have no idea what I saw. There are many mysterious places in the Moscow metro where people disappear, where ghosts are seen, and all other sorts of nonsense happens. But everyone has heard of these from Glukhovsky's books. But there is also a completely different, unknown part of the metro, Volokolomsk. No, we're not talking about secret bunkers and government lines, but about so-called ghost stations. They are not visible on the metro map, trains do not stop there, and many people do not even know about them. And yet, they exist. These stations can only be seen on official metro maps, and even there, they are highlighted in an inconspicuous gray. These stations were either unfinished or mothballed for various reasons. Since then, they have been empty, dusty, rusty, dark, smelling of mold and creosote, a special chemical used in the metro. People have no business there. They just sit there, biding their time, and who cares? Let them stay. There are 4 such stations in the metro. Sovetskaya on the green line, the old above-ground Kaluzskaya on the orange line, the similar Parovnoskaya on the blue line, and most famously, Volokolomskaya on the lilac line, not to be confused with the new one on the blue line. This is the one that we will be discussing now. The station was built in the 1970s. It is 80% complete. It's located between Shukinskaya and Tushinskaya stations, and its columns and part of the platform can be seen from a train window. In the 1990s, criminal gangs took a liking to the station, and corpses with signs of violent death, gnawed beyond recognition by rats, and criminal guns were regularly found there, or more precisely, in the spaces beneath the platform. Later, the hatch through which the gangsters had dragged the corpses was sealed with concrete, and the Metro Police finally breathed a sigh of relief. Last winter, during my university break, my partner and I decided to visit the station. Few people know that the station has another entrance, through a system of underground sewers. It seemed fate itself did not want us to go there. Before leaving, I could barely start the car, because I had to climb in at night to avoid playing Catch Me with the Train, and I had to take a lot of gear with me. I could not carry it all. Although this had never happened to her before, and she never acted like this again, I never had trouble with my car before or again. Along the way I got a flat tire, changed it, picked up my partner, and we were off. Approaching the drop-off point, we managed to get really stuck, barely got out, and almost broke a tool when opening the hatch. Well, with great difficulty, we got in. We knew the direction of the station, so we set off. We are walking, joking around, just as usual. We are crawling from horizon to horizon, higher, lower, rough concrete, humming cables, water dripping from the ceiling. About 2 hours later, we emerged into a tunnel, then into the station itself, a sensation I had never experienced before. There it was, the ghost station I had heard so much about. I had seen it from the train window, but this was the first time I had actually been there. The metro is a special experience, especially when you're walking through deserted, dark tunnels. A certain feeling of discomfort arises when you find yourself on the other side of the safe capsule of a train car, but my admiration for the station faded as we explored it. Gray, unlined concrete, rust, dust, dirt. To avoid shining our lights and avoid being seen by the engineers of the maintenance trains, we decided to go down into the sub-platform rooms. Every station has these. They look like a dorm floor, a straight corridor with rooms on either side, and stairs to the lower levels at both ends of the corridor. There could be a huge number of levels. The maximum I've seen of sub-platform rooms is 10 levels. We inspected the rooms and moved on, scaring away the rats. We approached what should have been a staircase going down, but it was not there. It wasn't just rusted and lying below it. It had been cut down. And the same was true on the other side of the corridor. My interest was piqued. Why the hell did they cut it down? Climb it? Yeah, sure, climb it. My mind had already started imagining all sorts of underground wonders that we would see, but everything turned out to be more banal. We secured a carabiner and a rope at the top and descended to the lower level. There were already staircases here, so we descended to the third level. There was only one staircase, The other end of the corridor ended in who knows what, supposedly a dead end. I immediately felt uneasy. An unreasonable sense of fear. Everything was quiet and peaceful. Later, I remember what struck me as strange. There was no dust or dirt down here. At all. It was as if the corridor had been washed with soap just hours ago. We exchanged glances and started walking. We had gone about 20 steps when we saw a rat running towards us. It was running strangely, zigzagging. About 5 meters before it reached us, it stood up on its hind legs and let out a howl or a squeal. I've seen plenty of rats in my life. They can't just make sounds like that. My partner kicked the rat. It somersaulted a couple of times in the air and then ran back. Slightly dejected, we continued on and then saw a puddle in front of us, about 10 meters long and the width of the entire corridor. Upon inspection, it was discovered that the puddle was ordinary tar, but it was liquid. Firstly, why the hell would they use tar in the subway if it is only used for paving? Secondly, it usually hardens a few hours after being poured, and it's hot, so steam should have been rising from it. The room temperature wasn't more than 10 degrees Celsius. I glanced at the instruments. The dosimeter and the gas analyzer both showed everything was fine, as did my partner. We decided to walk through this puddle of tar, and as soon as we took a few steps, in the flickering light of the lights, we saw him, or rather it. It emerged from a side corridor. It vaguely resembled a person, but it was much too thin to be a person. Its limbs were unnaturally twisted and elongated, disproportionate to its body. And most importantly, this creature moved towards us, very slowly. All we could see was its hunched over silhouette. What terrified me the most was how it moved. It was twisting its legs wildly and shaking its whole body. And then we heard its voice, or rather, not its voice, but the sounds it was making. It sounded like guttural sobs, but sobs filled with hatred. Fear made our vision blur, and we lost our balance and fell into this puddle of tar. Damn it, it smelled not like a mixture of superheated asphalt and oil, but like long rotten meat. The smell made our heads spin, and a lump rose in our throats. Barely able to hold down our dinner, understanding each other wordlessly, we rushed back, my partner sliding in the muck, me on all fours. He lifted me from the spilled mess by the scruff of my neck. We ran back, the sobs seeming ever closer. As we ran to the ladder, we looked up to where the thing had been. It was already very close. You could make out the folds in the flabby skin, and it seemed to be reaching out to us. We flew up the ladder in a matter of seconds, barely managing to unhook the rope. As we fled the platform, we heard muffled footsteps on the lower metal ladders. Reaching the hatch, we climbed out and, completely exhausted, collapsed in the snow. Only now could I understand why the upper ladders had been sawed off. On my way home, I wondered who or what it could be, and I drew the only logical parallel. Speleologists, cave explorers, have a legend that a guardian lives in every cave, and you must ask his permission before entering his abode. He is terrifying to those who appear without permission, and those who ask permission will not even see him. Maybe it was him, or maybe the ghost of a man whose body was dumped to the station. I don't know, and I don't really want to find out. Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. Be me. This happened when it was a couple of weeks before Christmas in Siberia, where I live, and it was freezing as balls. I am a university student in Siberia. I live in the university dorms. The snow here at this time was in full force and crunching under my boots. The night is falling around the time that this happened. I get invited to a Polish classmates' party in their dorm. They are from the Baikal region and pretty cool dudes. It's 2 guys, Stefan and Adam, 2 girls, Vlada and Katya, plus me. I bring some vodka to the party, obviously. What else would I bring? After a little while, everyone is a little bit tipsy. We start swapping scary stories, as you do when you get a bit drunk. Stefan, the ringleader, gets this look in his eye. You guys ever hear about the haunted basement? The dorm's got kind of a reputation. People say it's cursed, haunted, whatever. Nobody wants night shifts here, especially near the basement. It's always locked and empty, and no one ever goes in there. The security guard who works here is a little bit nuts, but even he stays away. Stefan says he was on night duty last weekend. He hears someone open up the basement door. He thinks it's the guard, so he goes to check. It is dark as hell down there. The door is made entirely out of iron, so it should never open by itself. Someone had to have pulled it. He fumbles around for the light switch. Suddenly, he says he feels something grab his pant leg. Whatever this thing that has grabbed him yanks him down and rips his pants, completely tears the fabric. He bolts immediately, and he never goes back. Everyone's just like, "Whoa, okay, Stefan." Adam calls bullshit. He wants proof. Since they're both drunk, bravado takes over, and they both get into a bit of a fight about it. Stefan gets salty. He dares us to go down together. We are drunk enough to think it's a really good idea. We enlist the girls to go and get the key from the guard, since they are much less drunk than us, and they will be much more likely to succeed. The security guard will probably just tell us to fuck off. About a few minutes later, they have gotten the key successfully, and we are all heading down. Adam is teasing Stefan, and they are arguing, like, really going into it. Vlada and Katya unlock the basement and wait for us outside. We all go inside and flick on the lights. On the floor, there is a piece of Stefan's pants still there somehow. Adam is still not convinced. He thinks Stefan is playing a prank and that he planted it here before we came down. "Show me the hand that grabbed you, bro." They are bickering. The girls are trying their best to calm them down. I'm just looking around, trying to stay out of it. The basement is weirdly clean, but cold as hell. There are pipes everywhere. Concrete floor. No mold, just dust. Kachi gets fed up. She heads for the exit. Adam gets really hyped up. I think the vodka is really kicked in now. He starts yelling at the top of his lungs. "Hey hand, where are you? Too weak and scared to grab me now?" I cringed so hard that I started following Katya. I didn't really want to be part of this anymore. Suddenly, Adam's screams turn real. Like, not drunk idiot screams, but it sounded like actual terror. The lights suddenly go out, and as they do, we hear a huge bang. It sounds like the bulb just burst. The girls start shrieking. We are now in semi-darkness. The only light illuminating our vision is the hallway light. I turn around and see Adam on the floor. His face is pure fear. There's a hand coming out of the floor, grabbing his leg. There's just like this black void in the ground where the hand is coming from, like a perfect circle. What the hell? The hand starts dragging him down. The concrete now looks like liquid. Stefan and Vlada try to pull him up. The floor just melts underneath them. All three disappear. I'm wondering if maybe I'm just too drunk to know what's going on, that I'm just imagining things. Katya stops screaming. She bolts for the exit. I chase after her, but the hallway feels endless. I can't catch up to her, no matter how hard I try, no matter how fast I run. And then I trip over something. I try to get up, but something is holding my pant leg. I feel around with my arms. It's a hand. It's cold. It's bony and the fingers are like claws. I try to pry it off desperately, but the floor gives way. I start sinking into the ground. It is icy cold. The icy cold feeling is running throughout my entire body, and I suddenly can't breathe. I try to brace myself. My hands go into the concrete like jelly. I close my eyes and start panicking internally. I open them up. I'm up to my neck in this freezing, shifting mess. The room has suddenly changed right in front of my eyes. The walls are now a dark red, with black symbols all over them, and these orange lights illuminating the room. The light from them is giving me a headache, I hear a machine humming. I can hear Katya screaming off in the distance. I try to move, but I can't, no matter how hard I try. I hear a really loud crunch, and then Katya's screams just stop. I start screaming, praying to every single god I know. The lights turn red. The hum starts to get louder, right in my ears. I hear some kind of voice in the dark say something like, "You cannot escape my greedy hands." Then I hear this crackling, unnatural laughter. I realize this is hell. I stop screaming. I'm just sobbing now, quietly. I don't even have the energy to do anything more. Suddenly, I feel something hard underneath my feet. I try to push up. Something grabs my waist and starts to pull me down. I try to fight it, punching and kicking and screaming. And then I jerk upward with all of my weight. The next thing I know, I'm lying on the cold concrete. The basement lights start to flicker back on. Even though the bulb had burst before, the bulb is now back. There is no sign of Adam, Stefan, or Vlada. Katya is just collapsed by the door. She is curled up into a ball and sobbing. My hands are just bleeding. Like deep in the beds of my fingernails, there is blood coming out. My pants are completely torn. I try to stand, but my legs are like jelly. They just shake and give way from underneath me. I drag Katya out once I can finally make it to my feet properly. Both of us are shaking. I stumble into the hallway and run into the security guard on my way out. The security guard is yelling at us, but we can barely talk. He sees the state that we are in and calls the police. The cops show up and ask what happened. I try to explain, but not only am I still tipsy, I'm in a bit of a manic frenzy, and I am talking at 1,000,000 miles an hour, while also being really conscious of the fact that what I'm explaining does not make sense. I see the officer's facial expression changed as he realizes that I am just sounding insane. Our friends disappeared into the floor. They think we're drunk, maybe on drugs. They search the basement. They find nothing but a torn piece of fabric. There is no sign of the others whatsoever. Their parents are called. My parents are called. The university freaks out completely. Katya is in complete shock. She barely speaks for days. I get questioned for hours, just completely grilled. Rumors spread around the dorms and the town about a possible murder or accident or a cover-up. The media gets wind. They publish a headline in the local paper, something about students vanish in a haunted dorm. The cops just keep on grilling us, but there is no evidence at all. They check for secret rooms, tunnels, nothing. At first they thought they were just playing a prank, but eventually the case goes cold. Adam, Stefan, Vlada, they are never found, even to this day. Their families are just completely devastated. Katya drops out. She moves back home. I got sent to therapy, PTSD diagnosis. I can't sleep. I have not been able to sleep since that day. I have nightmares every single night about what we went through. Sometimes I wake up and feel something cold grabbing my leg, like this phantom illusion. The university quietly closes the basement and seals it off, but properly this time. Nobody talks about it after that. I continue to get funny looks and people avoid me. They think I'm a murderer. This continues until I eventually drop out from the stress. Years later, I still have the scars. Nobody believes me, but I know what I saw. I wish I knew what happened to them, what actually happened to them, because there is no way that what I saw in my drunken state was real. Katya would not talk to me again. She passed away a few months after it happened. Her mom would not speak to me either. I found out later in the paper that she jumped from a building in the city. I guess she just couldn't take the stress anymore and finally reached her limits. I just wish I knew what actually happened. I really just want to know.